When I was a kid, I used to play Trainz Railroad Simulator 2004. There were lots of sound effects on this game that either creeped me out, scared the living daylights out of me, or just confused me. Like, what in the world kind of sound effect is that? And in this video, I'm going to show you all of those sound effects. Okay, here we have this building called it says building brick shed. Now, it's actually really interesting how I discovered this building. I just discovered how to free roam in that game, and I was just going around this random route, and then I heard this weird sound. And I'm like, what kind of sound is that? So I just follow it to try to figure out what it is, and it leads me to this building. And I'm like, what could be going on in a random brick shed that sounds like this? Like, I don't even know what this is the sound of. It's just doesn't make sense to me. And it still doesn't make sense. I don't know what this is supposed to be a sound of. Sounds like saws or something? Maybe? Oh man, I forgot all about this building. So many nostalgic feelings I get about it. Because it was I don't know. I used to use this building a lot when I was a kid because I liked how when you put it on the ground, the church bell actually rings. I found that pretty cool as a kid. This one also has a church bell that rings. You know, as a kid, I actually remember changing the time to try to see if the clock on that church would respond, and then being extremely disappointed to find out the clock doesn't work. But that's actually pretty realistic, because there are a lot of there are lots of church clocks in this city where the clocks are just frozen; they don't work at all. And there's one that tells time, but it always tells the wrong time. So that's actually kind of realistic in a way. Okay, here we have this building called Building Factory, and it makes a sound that even today confuses me because I've worked at a factory before and I've never heard anything that sounds like this. Like, what is this even supposed to be a sound of? So here we have something called Building Gas Station. Now, there's actually a funny story about this. I was roaming around in Surveyor, and I just randomly came across this sound as I was passing the gas station. And I was like, what kind of sound is this? Because I've been to lots of gas stations and I've never heard anything that sounded even remotely like this. Let's listen. What just happened? Oh. What in the world is this? What are we listening to? What was that? Like, it sounds like a clicking sound or something, and then something that sounds kind of like the sound of something, glass breaking or something, like someone knocked over something made of glass, and then, like, I guess the sound of someone trying to sweep up that glass. And then I believe I hear the sound of someone snoring directly after that. And so, like, what is going on in this gas station? Okay, now we have this building called Building Town Clock. Now, when I was a kid, I always thought this clock was weird because I've been near town clocks and I've never actually heard them ticking. So I'm like, well, why is this one ticking? Like, why should you even be able to hear the sound of the clock from the outside of the building? Also, as a kid, I actually remember trying to change the time to see if it would actually respond to it, and being annoyed to find out that the clock did not move. It was always in that position. And I'm like, well, I guess I shouldn't expect too much from this game at all. I found that very disappointing as a kid. Luckily, though, later on, someone would find a way to make clocks respond to the time of the day in this game. Okay, here we have a building called House Brick Red. So, what is this sound? A clock or something? I don't see, like, why does it make sense that I would hear a clock from the outside of a house if I'm listening to it? Our house doesn't sound like that. It usually sounds like siblings arguing. What is this? Like, this house actually creeped me out when I was a kid because I'm like, what is this noise I'm listening to? It doesn't make any sense. Like, why does it make sense that I would hear anything remotely similar to this when I'm anywhere near a house? Like, it doesn't even sound human. Like, is this a house the aliens live in? And that's why it sounds so weird? Listen to this. What am I listening to? Like, I can't even now as a grown-up, I still can't tell what this is supposed to be the sound of. But it can't be the sound of a house. So yeah, that house actually scared the daylights out of me when I was a kid. I never used it again after hearing that, because I'm like, what is that? It's so creepy. And now we have the sound that passenger stations make on this game. As a kid, this never creeped me out. It just didn't make sense to me. Like, does this sound like people to you? It doesn't to me. Like, I've been to lots of big train stations when I was a kid. I never heard anything remotely like this. So I would just scratch my head at this sound, trying to figure out how could this possibly sound like people chattering at a station. Like, I actually remember turning the volume up really loud and putting my ear close to the speaker to see if I could actually capture some kind of sound, like a word that a person was saying or something that could hint on the fact that it's the sound of people chattering, but I could not hear any words out of this. So it just didn't make sense to me. Look at this, it's a clue. It says man discovers Shift Control Alt P. There's actually a cheat code on this game where actually on older versions of this game, basically if you press Shift Control Alt P and click on the ground, lightning comes out of nowhere and just burns the area you clicked on. Do they still have that on this game? Let's try it. Shift Control Alt. I'm gonna need both my hands for this. Okay, I press Shift Control Alt P. Didn't work. I guess it doesn't work in this game. It worked on an older... I remember it working on an older version of this game, though. Like Trainz Classics or something. Anyway. Okay, now we have Oil Refinery. This actually used to scare me as a kid for several reasons. The first one being the sound that it makes. This sound just sounded creepy to me as a kid. Like, I actually remember having nightmares where I'm just forced to listen to this sound the entire duration of the dream, and it was horrifying. So yeah, I would always distance myself from this specific building when I was a kid. I would not put it on the ground, and on routes that had this, I would always just mute the sound and delete every single one of them and replace them with something else. I actually remember one time where I accidentally selected it and accidentally put it on the ground, and then I just rushed to the volume trying to mute it as quickly as possible before the sound started to play, and then very quickly reached for the delete button so I could just get rid of it. So yeah, as a kid, the sound that this makes used to creep me out. Another thing that used to creep me out about this is this thing right here. I think it's called a fire stack. But as a kid, that specific thing used to creep me out because it's shaped like a volcano, and I'm terrified of volcanoes. I was even more terrified of them as a kid because my parents were trying to teach me about volcanoes. They let me watch this movie called Volcanoes, that where a volcano, erupts in the city of Los Angeles and everything. So yeah. After I watched that movie, I was just terrified that the ground would just randomly open and magma would be coming out of the ground. And I would just have no warning and not be able to escape in time. So I was terrified of volcanoes. Anything that reminded me of volcanoes, including this thing, used to give me nightmares. What was it, recording or something? Okay, when I was a kid, I really loved steam locomotives, but for some reason on Trainz Railroad Simulator, 2004, the specific sound of steam locomotives in that game made when they idled used to creep me out a little bit. This sound specifically used to creep me out. I'm not really sure why. In fact, if someone would have asked me why this sound creeped me out, I could not tell you. It just sounded, for some reason, it just sounded creepy to me. Oddly enough, though, when the sound slowed down, it didn't creep me out quite as much. Still, I have no idea why. Like, if someone were to ask me, why exactly did the sound creep you out? I really don't know. It just did. Oddly enough, this specific sound didn't creep me out at all as a kid. Probably because it sounded a little bit more like a real steam locomotive to me. In fact, to be honest, as a kid, I actually enjoyed this specific sound. And was actually a little bit disappointed when they got rid of it in the newer versions of this game. There's one sound effect I almost forgot, and that's this building pub white horse. Now, this one didn't scare me as a kid, it just sounded weird to me. Let's listen. Like, what is this sound even? Is this supposed to be the sound that it sounds like inside a pub? Because I actually live down the street from a pub, and I actually listened to it because I was curious of what it sounds like. It sounded nothing like this. It just sounded like a regular restaurant, to be honest. So yeah, what is the sound even supposed to be? Funny story, by the way. When I was a kid, my idea of torture was being locked inside an oil refinery. And one of my worst nightmares involved being inside one of these buildings and just being forced to listen to the sound, because like I mentioned earlier, I was just terrified of the sound. I couldn't stand it. So the idea of actually having to listen to it for a long extended period of time, it was just horrible. Horrifying. So those are buildings and sound effects that either confused me, creeped me out, or basically scared the living daylights out of me as a kid. Now, when I got older, obviously these sounds didn't creep me out anymore. For some reason, as a kid, they did. There's actually a funny story about this oil refinery. One night, I got tired of having oil refinery related nightmares, and I thought to myself, you know what? This is ridiculous. Like, some people have nightmares where I don't know, they lose their job or something, but I'm having nightmares that take place in an oil refinery. Like, that's just so weird. Like if I were to tell someone I had a nightmare that I was locked in an oil refinery, they'd probably laugh at me. So yeah, so I said, okay, I'm going to face my fear. This happened when I was a kid. So I opened this game, I put an oil refinery on the ground, and I just listened to it and told myself, it's just a sound effect. Like you're not in any real danger at hearing this sound. So eventually I did break my fear of the oil refinery and was able to use it again. The same thing for the steam locomotives as well. Oh yeah, one thing I almost forgot. There's actually something specific about the traffic in this game that used to creep me out when I was a kid playing Trainz Railroad Simulator 2004. I'm about to show you what it is. Okay, when I was a kid, I had this really weird idea. Basically, my plan was to prank the traffic by tricking them and trapping them in a really small circle, because I was curious of what they would do if they were just stuck in the circle and couldn't get out, and the traffic just kept building up. It used to make me laugh so much, actually, seeing the poor helpless traffic having no idea how to get out of here and just getting stuck like this. You know, I wonder if this is going to make the game crash eventually, because this computer has trouble running high detailed traffic like this. Now, when I was a kid, seeing something that looks like it shouldn't happen or shouldn't be allowed in the laws of physics used to creep me out so much. So when it eventually got to the point where the traffic kept overlapping itself instead of crashing, that actually creeped me out. Because it's like, this should not happen. Wow, the cars are actually driving on the left side of the road, and they're just staying on that side. That actually didn't happen on Trainz 2004. They just kept sliding into each other and then trying to go around each other again. But now they're just staying on the left side, which is really interesting. They're not even trying to get back over. They're just staying on the left. Wow, look at this. They're trying to find a location where they can get back to the right side of the road, but they just can't, so they're just... You know, I have no idea what led me to do this when I was a kid. I guess I was just curious what would happen if the traffic was stuck in a circle and couldn't get out. Would the game start deleting the traffic when it got too bad, or would they just keep getting stuck? I was actually trying to see if there was a way to actually make the traffic stop in Surveyor. My theory was that when it got this bad, the cars would just stop and there would be one big traffic jam. I wasn't expecting them to keep moving into each other. And look at this. Yeah, look at that. The game actually stopped sending more traffic to the circle because it realizes too much. Oddly enough, the traffic in this game is smart enough to realize when there's too many cars on the road. Well, sort of. It still let it get this bad. But now it's not producing any more cars for this road.